So, every process that you ever run in your system is essentially created in this way. So, there is a fork which essentially clones a particular process, and then there is an exec which essentially loads a new program into the child process and executes it. Okay. So thus there is a parent and child relationship between yeah, and thus there is a parent child relationship between the two processes. The process which invoke the fork is the parent, and the newly created process is the child, right? So every process is essentially created this way, except for one process, and that is essentially the first process. The first process that is created is called the init process. In Linux, it's essentially present in /sbin/init. So this is the first process that's created and does not have a parent, right? So this process, unlike all the other processes that are created in your system, would be created by the operating system itself, by the kernel during the boot up time. So this is like a super parent, and its main job is to essentially fork other processes, create other processes, start up several other scripts and other services that are actually running in your operating system, right? Specifically in Linux, this first process would essentially look into this particular directory etc/init.d, where which would essentially list several other programs that need to be started every time the system boots up, right? So therefore, if you essentially look at this entire set of processes running in your system, you can actually arrange it as a particular tree. Right at the root of the tree is the init process. So this is your process with a PID equal to 1, and it is the first process that the kernel would essentially create and execute, and the init would essentially create multiple processes. For example, over here you have the network manager process and the light DM process. Each of this process could create one or more processes, right? And thus you have a tree like structure, yeah, and thus you have a tree like structure, right? So if you're using a Linux system, you can use your command pstree in Linux to essentially visualize all the processes in this tree like structure and identify the root process and several other child process, the parent processes, and so on. Okay. Now, what we've seen earlier is typically we have a parent process, and it would create a child process by essentially first invoking the system call fork, and then the child process would invoke the exec system call, while the parent process essentially waits for the child process to complete. Okay, but things can essentially can differ from this. Things can essentially yeah, okay, yeah, okay, until the child process completes or terminates, right? So the child process completes, so or in other words, the child process terminates in two ways. One is a voluntary way by invoking of this system call called exit. The other is an involuntary way by the system call called kill, right? So any process can exit in either of these two ways, either through the exit system call, where the OS where the child process itself invokes the exit system call, and then this would be the indication to the kernel that the child process wants to terminate, right? And the second way is by this signal. It's called a signal. The second way is by the system call called kill, which essentially would send a signal from another process to kill or to terminate a specific process, right? So, signal can be sent by another process or by an OS to terminate a specific process. Okay. The signal, so this in involuntary way, for example, the kill takes two parameters, it takes a PID and then a signal. The PID is essentially the process that needs to be killed, that needs to be terminated, while signal on the other hand is a signal that the process needs to be killed. So, there are different signals possible like sigterm, sigquit, which is essentially control slash, sigint, which is control C, and so on. So, there are multiple different signals that a process can essentially send, or the OS can send to a particular process to essentially terminate it. And essentially this is handled by the kill system call. PID is the process that needs to be terminated, and signal is one of these different signals used to terminate the process. In the voluntary way, the child process itself calls exit with a particular status. For example, exit -1, right. So, -1 here is a status, and it is essentially, this status is essentially given back to the parent process. So, if the parent, for instance, invoke the wait with an ampersand status, then the parent would go into the sleeping state and wake up when the exit, when the child process exit. The value of status in this particular example would have the value -1, which is essentially the exit status of the child process, right. So, another thing which happens during the process termination, both in voluntary as well as the involuntary, is that the operating system starts to free up the process resources. It starts to reclaim the page directory, page tables, the files that were opened by the process, the proc structure which essentially held the process control block for the process, and so on. All of this is essentially reclaimed by the process. So, we will get into detail about how the OS essentially reclaims these resources at a later time. Okay, so yeah. Yeah. Another, so typically what is expected is that the parent process waits until the child process completes its termination. But it may so happen that the parent process itself terminates before the child process completes its execution. So, this will actually result in what we call as zombies. So, zombie essentially is a state of a process when the process is essentially terminated, but the OS essentially has not deallocated its resources. Okay. So, let us essentially see an example, right. So, for instance, let us say this is the execution of a particular process, and at one particular time, it is at this particular time instant, it either exits, that is a voluntary exit, or gets killed, right. And essentially the process now is terminated, right. Now, there is a time gap between this particular exit to the point where the OS essentially reclaims all the resources that were held by the process. So, these resources includes the memory, the files that were opened, the proc structure, the kernel stack, the page directory, page tables, and so on, right. So, there is a time gap between the exit of a process and when the resources are essentially reclaimed by the OS. So, during this particular period, the OS right. So, during this particular period, the process is essentially called a zombie process. Okay. So, recollect now again that when we are looking at the various states of a process, we had one state, where is it? Yeah, we had one state that was essentially called zombie, right. So, a particular process becomes a zombie when it has terminated, but the operating system has not yet deallocated all its resources, right. So, during that period of time, the process is called the zombie process. So, why have we essentially, or why are operating systems designed in such a way so as to create such a zombie process? Why does the OS essentially wait for some time until it reclaims its resources, right? So, the reason for this is that doing so would essentially help the parent process to first uh, identify the exit status of the child process which has terminated, but it will also help for the parent process to debug the child process. Okay. So typically, if say a program crashes while it is executing, then the parent process would be able to read the various contents of the registers, the program counter, and so on for the process that has crashed, and be able to identify what has essentially gone wrong. Okay. Another type of process is called the orphan process, right. So, typically what we may expect is that we have a parent process which creates a child process, and the parent process essentially waits until the child process completes its execution. But sometimes it may so happen that the parent process may itself terminate before the child process completes its execution. So, this may be either voluntary, that the parent itself terminates without waiting for the child to complete, or it may be involuntary. For example, the parent gets a kill signal and is forced to terminate. In such a case, the child process is left without a parent, right? And such a child process is called an orphan. So, typically what happens over here is that your init process, which has the PID 1 and is the first process that gets executes, would adopt the newly created orphan process, and thus in such a case the parent of this orphan process is essentially the init process. Okay. Right. So, there are two ways by which orphans are created. One is the unintentional orphans, when the parent process crashes, maybe due to a bug or a problem, or it is essentially killed, as we have mentioned earlier, by the operating system or by another process. So, these are essentially may cause unintentional orphans. The other way is by intentional orphans, right, where the parent process exits but continues, but wants to make the child process continue to execute, right. So, your typical services that you essentially run in your desktop OS, like your network daemons and your network services and so on, are essentially intentional orphans. So, they are called daemons, right, and are essentially used to run background services, right. So, they would continuously keep running in your system. So, the way to essentially create such daemon processes is by this utility called nohub. I am not going into the explanation of nohub, but you can essentially look up, you can essentially view the manual or the man pages for nohub to see how to create such daemon processes.